We will be recording these starting today, and they'll be daily starting next week. We're going to shift the time a little bit earlier in the day. It'd be 8 or 8:30. And we're going to start doing this every single day to make sure we're having a consistent conversation with you. And so please stay connected with us as I'm putting out more content, doing live Facebook and Instagrams and all that kind of fun stuff to make sure, and we're sending emails out with additional resources that you can leverage for your business. That's really going to be our focus. It's going to be what is the focus that your business must have and what are the pivots that you need to have. So that's kind of where we're going to start and keep our focus. So if you haven't already, please type in where you're from so we can kind of get an idea of where everyone's kind of communicating and watching this from. So first and foremost, mindset. You got to stay above the point. So in these moments, you can only control what you can control, and that starts with the thoughts that you have. So we got to start there. We have to keep and the point of power is in the moment. It's not in the past. It's not in the future. It's in the moment. So in this moment, are you above the point? Are you below the point? Are you taking ownership, accountability, and responsibility for the things that you can control? And it's not like, a handful of businesses are in really good spots. A bunch of businesses are not. And it's not about beating yourself up for where you're at. It's about going, okay, in this moment, what can I do to move myself forward? And this is also not the time to have an ego. This is the time to check the ego at the door and be fully in and going, what do I need to learn to where my business will thrive in this environment that we're in right now? Now is not the time to have ego. So the very first thing that we got to shift is our mindset. How do we shift our mindset? Well, we start with things like gratitude journals. There's a whole lot of science behind that. Identify at least one thing every single day with you and your family that you're grateful for. Create I am statements. I am blank. I'm in the process of. I am statements you say out loud to yourself twice a day. They are always positive. They are always current or future tense. I'm in the process of making sure my business thrives over the course of the next 8 weeks, the next 2 months, the next 3 months. Because let's be real candid for a moment. With all the knowledge out there, no one knows how this is going to end. With that said, best projections are the next 8 weeks to 10 weeks, things are going to be locked down. Things are going to be contained. So we can prepare for that. Realistically, things will start opening back up between May 1st and the end of June. That's when the peak will be passed and things will start opening back up. And then we have the economic shifts that will take place after that. But the actual containment of all of it is realistically somewhere going to end between May 1st and the end of June. So you have to properly prepare your mindset for it. Maslow's hierarchy of needs starts to kick in right now because at the top of his, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is freedom. Well, everyone's stuck in their home right now, so freedom's kind of been taken away a little bit. So you have to be mindful of your mindset and how to shift it and how to stay positive in these moments and not panic and not freak out and not react to it. Instead, how do we respond to it? Well, that starts with a daily commitment of saying, I'm going to be the most positive person in the room. I'm going to logically plan out what my business needs to do to move forward. So we have to start with mindset. The next thing, we have to pivot our communication. We have to pivot how we communicate, how often we communicate. If you haven't communicated with your past or current or pipeline clients or customers, you need to do that today. And it's not just an email. Email won't cut it right now. You need to send a video out. You need to pick up the phone and call them. You need to send them text messages. You need to communicate in a different way. You must pivot how you communicate and how often you communicate with them. You need to communicate if you're physically, if you're in the medical field or if you're going to someone's home, you need to communicate how you are keeping them safe with what you are doing with your team to make sure that we're wearing gloves, and if we need masks, we're gonna go get those, and we're washing our hands between every single appointment or whatever those things are. You have to communicate how you're gonna keep them safe if you're physically going to need to be around them. So we gotta pivot our mindset. The second thing, and that's a daily thing, that's an in the moment thing, that's a daily thing that you must focus on. Then we have to focus on pivoting our communication. So how do you communicate with your customers and clients? How does that need to shift right now? How often should you be communicating with them? Have you communicated where they should be looking to stay connected with you? All of these things are absolutely critical. The next one is marketing. Your marketing must pivot. It must shift. Now is the time to market more than ever, especially if you're in a field like, construction or something where, guess what? Roofs are still going to leak. Pipes are still going to break. Cars are still going to break down. People still need haircuts. People still need to go sell their homes. You need to market more now than ever because your business requires that of you. So it's a matter of not stopping marketing. It's about how does it need to shift? How does it need to pivot? What's the marketing message? How does what you do increase someone's level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? And again, if you don't understand what that is, go research it after this. The fundamental levels. So at the top, you have freedom. At the bottom, at the fundamental foundational levels, you have things like their physical environment, their feeling of safety, and then their feeling of love or belonging. You see, what's happening right now is literally disrupting people's internal feelings. Their physical environment has completely changed. Their feeling of safety has completely changed. Their feeling of belonging, they're used to going out to networking groups or hanging out with friends. That has completely changed. How does what you do increase their level of feeling of belonging, feeling of freedom, feeling of safety, physical environment around them? That's your opportunity right now. You have to understand what's in it for them, and that's what you need to communicate, because people they've always made decisions emotionally. They will make emotional decisions even more so now. So how do you need to shift your marketing? Then we get to team. Your team may need to change, or the focus of your team may need to change. So what are those things? How do you change the shift in where your team's focus needs to be? Do you need to reduce their time? For some businesses, they need to cut staff. They need to cut their team a little bit because they won't survive if they don't. What do you need to do with your team? And for some, they're thriving. They need more team right now. They need to go hire a whole bunch of people because their business is booming. There are certain industries that will hurt. The majority of industries should be able to maintain. And then there's a handful of industries that are going to absolutely excel. We have a couple of clients who are turning away business left and right now because they are one of those industries. Tech industry is one of them. We have a client who they get a call probably every, what was he saying? He was essentially like every hour, more or less, of another company saying, we need you to come and install video conferencing in all of our all their homes, because they're all working from their home right now, and all of our managers' homes. How do we have the right telecommunication, video conferencing? Because things like Zoom are already starting to see breaks and tweaks. Internet providers are seeing, spikes because everyone's at home now. So how do you need to shift your team to handle what's going on right now? Sometimes, and if it's not going to be reducing or changing their hours, it may be changing what they do. Some of your team may need to focus on going and selling more right now, or marketing more. Some of them may need to focus more on answering the phone for you. What are the things that need to pivot with your team? Then we get to delivery. How do you need to pivot how you deliver your product or service? This is absolutely critical. How you pivot, how you deliver your product or service. And then going back to, the second major point of communication. How do you communicate that? Well, again, if you're with somebody, if your business is, I need to be at someone's home or in front of somebody, well, then you need to communicate the delivery of the fact that, we're going to have gloves and masks and we're washing our hands and things like that. If you're a service-based industry that is normally, at a desk, well, now you're at home. How do you communicate that? How do you communicate your hours? How do you communicate when you're available to pick up the phone and answer questions? All of these things absolutely matter right now. So you must pivot how you deliver your product or service, which then all of these things lead to time. Time is the one thing we are unable to get more of, and so we need to be very specific with it. So the two things to pivot on time are daily KPIs and your default calendar. You must have a routine that you are consistently in. Your routine is more important now than it ever has been. And the decisions you make to pivot in your business over the next 2 weeks to 3 weeks will determine where you will be at the end of this whole thing. So right now, it's not a time of being a perfectionist. It's not a time of being slow to make change or slow to make shifts in your business. You make those right away. One of my coaches, I have 3 coaches myself. One of them was walking me through a scenario. One of the businesses he owned in the past was profiting $250,000 a month. Profit. 250 grand a month. They were printing money. When the 2008 situation took place, he had a whole bunch of cash in his bank, and he was very slow to make changes in his business because he had all that money. And he said at the end of the whole thing, he ended up having to sell that business because he couldn't maintain it anymore because he didn't make quick decisions. So regardless if you have, millions in the bank or if you have $10 in the bank, you must make immediate decisions. Don't waste time going back and forth. Make a decision and then move through it. So what are the daily KPIs that you and your team need? And how does that shift? If their activities need to change, then their daily KPIs, and KPIs stand for key performance indicators. They are the activities and results that somebody should get every single day in their business. So if you don't have a daily KPI sheet, guess what you're going to go do after this? You're going to end the webinar and you're going to create your KPIs, daily activities leading to daily results. What are those things that your team need to be focusing on? And if they need to change from what they're used to doing, then do that. And if that needs to change and then you need to teach them something, then invest the time to teach them. And then their calendar. So how does everyone's daily calendar look like? And it should be a consistent routine. Every day at 9 o'clock, I'm doing this type of activity. Every day at 10 o'clock, I'm doing this type of activity. It could be marketing. It could be sales. It could be picking up the phone. It could be emailing clients. Block your time in up to 45-minute blocks. Don't do 60-minute blocks. Do up to 45-minute blocks. So it's either 15, 30, 45. Or maybe it's 20, 40. And you have 20-minute segments in your time. So that way, every hour, you're getting 3 different types of tasks done. If you are a business that you need to be consistently communicating with your customers, then one of those 20-minute blocks every hour is email, text message, and phone calls. Your daily KPIs and default calendar matter more now than ever. Focus on what's important. Everything is going to feel urgent right now. So focus first and foremost on the things that are important to the business being successful right now. Don't get lost in the urgency pool. Focus on what's important. At the end of every day, you're going to make a list, an action list for what I need to do tomorrow. And everyone on your team is going to end their day creating their action list of what they need to do tomorrow and then send it to you. Break it down, prioritize it in importance to the business, not in urgency. So I create the list. What are my A-grade important tasks for the business to be successful tomorrow? And your team does that same thing, and then they send it to you to review at the end of every day. Use your overall goals to focus on what needs to be done and create daily commitments. I use the word commitments very intentionally because the commitments you make and your team makes to your business must pivot. They may need to shift. So what are those commitments, those daily actions that everyone will commit to doing? So if you have Q&A, I'm gonna do a little bit of Q&A if you have any questions, but at the moment, what I'd like for you to do is wherever you're at, and we got some people here in Texas, we got some people outside of Texas, what are 2 things you're gonna stop doing right now? What are 2 things you're gonna start pivoting? And what are 3 things that you just need to do more of based on today's topics? So wherever you're at, document them right now. 2 things that you need to stop doing. They are urgent, but they're not important. Stop doing that. 2 things I need to begin doing for my business that are important to it. And then 3 things that I just need to do more of. I need to do more communication. I need to do more marketing. I need to do more efficient time investing into my business versus time wasting into my business. What are these things? I need to do more I am statements. I need to do more, I need to write more things that I'm grateful for right now. There's a lot of science behind everything that I'm teaching you and that we're walking through. And again, starting next week, every single morning, we're going to go through these 5 new topics every single morning until we are out of things that you need to pivot in your business. So if you wouldn't mind in the chat, if you have Q&A, you can click on it. It should be open for questions and answers. You feel free to ask any. And in the chat, please document the number 1 thing you got out of this morning's webinar. These are going to be about 20 minutes every morning. So that way you can learn some stuff. You can make some pivots in your business and you can get back out there. So in the chat, please let me know what's 1 thing you got out of today. And if you have any questions, put that into the Q&A. And I'll answer anything that anyone has as you are typing them out. Words can inspire, thoughts can provoke. Only actions will truly bring you closer to your dreams. It's that straightforward. you have to leave here and take action. Oh, there's a question. All right. The question is, what are, okay. So, some of these things start to kind of compile with each other. So when we look at KPIs and your default calendar and the daily action list, those three things really kind of come together and they a nice little bow. So daily activities that are important to the business per position, intended results from those things. Then you go to the calendar and you make sure you have time set aside for those daily things in each person's calendar. And then at the end of the day, they're creating their list of the top three things or so that they need to do for tomorrow based on their KPIs and their calendar. So that all kind of comes together. So that's important for you. It's important if you have a general manager, if you have crew leaders in your business, if you have a vice president. Everyone in the business must have these things, and then they must send them back to you at the end of every day. Good question. One thing you got it today, change what your team is doing. Cross-train as needed. Focus on what is important now. Absolutely. Any other questions for today? If not, please type in, again, the top thing you got out of today. Communication is critical. Absolutely. Anything else? Any other questions for today? Awesome. All right, y'all. You'll get a notification on the recording of all of this and how to jump in next week. We're going to start doing these daily. So jump in as you can and keep moving your business forward. Keep taking action. It's more critical now than it ever has been. So question becomes is how fast do you want to move your business? Because right now things in business are changing daily. And we need you to be properly prepared for the next 8 to 10 weeks to make sure that your business is consistently moving forward in the moment. So I'm Dr. Michael Hartley. I'm here to elevate your business, enhance your lifestyle. And right now, it's primarily about taking action. Thanks, everyone, for joining in. Keep letting us know the top thing you got out of today. And we'll talk next week. Bye for now, everybody.